George Orwell once wrote that words are sometimes deliberately misused to defend the indefensible. That's what's happening each time we're given the fake news that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in the 2016 presidential election. This meme is part of a package of lies and distortions that are easily debunked. We're also told that 5 presidential candidates won the popular vote but lost the election because of a supposedly antiquated electoral system that should be replaced.
What difference at this point does it make?
We're also told that Hillary Clinton's loss is unprecedented, although we're not told exactly how her loss is without precedent. The package contains other lies and distortions, and in this video we'll tackle a few of them. First of all, Hillary Clinton received 48.04% of the popular vote, meaning that almost 52% of the voters voted against her. Getting rejected by a solid majority of voters is not what any reasonable person would call winning the popular vote. Anyone who thinks she won the popular vote is in serious need of remedial math. Oh, but Hillary Clinton's popular vote count was 2.06 percentage points ahead of Donald Trump's.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask? Well,
it doesn't matter. They both lost the popular vote. It doesn't mean anything that Hillary didn't lose the popular vote by as much as Donald Trump lost it. Donald Trump won the electoral vote, and that's what counts. We're told, as I mentioned earlier, that 5 presidential candidates won the popular vote but lost the election because of our supposedly antiquated electoral system. Wrong. The truth is, this has happened only once in 59 presidential elections, and even then, it happened under circumstances that were unique to the times. In 1876, Samuel Tilden won 50.92% of the popular vote, but 3 states, Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina, were conflicted in the seating of electors. The South was still under military occupation, the so-called Reconstruction. The military governments seated one group of electors, the civilian and rightful government seated another. The standoff was resolved when the Republicans agreed to end the military occupation of the South in exchange for the 3 states' electoral votes. Are Clinton supporters suggesting that a situation like this may happen again? It's highly unlikely. Where did they get the lie that 5 candidates won the popular vote but lost the electoral vote when there was only 1? In the other 4 cases, nobody won the popular vote, but the losing candidate got more votes than the winner. In the year 2000, Al Snore, got 48.38% of the vote and lost to George W. Bush, who received 47.87%. In 1888, incumbent President Grover Cleveland got 48.63% of the vote and lost to Benjamin Harrison, who had received 47.8% of the popular vote. Both vote margins were razor thin, no more than 0.83% of the vote. Another, of course, was Hillary Clinton, whose popular vote count was barely 2 percentage points ahead of Donald Trump's. On the other hand, Hillary's popular vote count was almost that far behind Richard Nixon's in 1960. In the 1824 election, no candidate received more than 41.4% of the popular vote, and barely 39% of the electoral vote. That election wasn't decided by the Electoral College. It was decided by the House of Representatives. And for what it's worth, Hillary Clinton's popular vote percentage was lower than 6 other losing presidential candidates: Al Gore, Richard Nixon, Grover Cleveland, James Blaine, Winfield Scott Hancock, and Samuel Tilden. It may be comforting to note that Hillary Clinton in 2016 finished more than 5 percentage points ahead of Bill Clinton in 1992. Also, for what it's worth, Donald Trump's popular vote percentage was higher than 4 other winning candidates, 5 if you include John Quincy Adams in 1824. The 4 are Bill Clinton, Woodrow Wilson, James Buchanan, and, drum roll, Abraham Lincoln. Try that one on for size. By a whopping 6 percentage points, Donald Trump was more popular than Abraham Lincoln. Before 1824, the popular vote was not counted in presidential elections. In the 49 presidential elections that we've had since then, 30 candidates won the popular vote and the electoral vote. In 14, nobody won the popular vote, but the leading candidate won the electoral vote. In 4 other elections, the candidate with a plurality of popular votes failed to get elected. In only one unique case did a candidate win a bare majority of votes and lose the electoral vote. And that set of events could never happen again except under conditions of martial law. Martial law, anyone? What if we abolished the Electoral College and awarded the presidency to the winner of the popular vote? That would mean that in at least 1/3 of the presidential elections, nobody would get enough votes to win. Then what would we do? I see 4 possibilities. 1, whoever wins a plurality of the vote would become president. Nah. This would encourage 3rd, 4th, 10th, and 20th political parties. Somebody could win the presidency with less than 10% of the vote, which would discredit the legitimacy of whoever wins. 2, they could send the election to the House of Representatives, but that would pose a set of problems that would be messier than a soup sandwich. 3, if nobody wins a majority of the vote, we could hold a runoff election 6 weeks later. Nah. This would give the president-elect barely 2 weeks to hire almost 4,000 members for his administration and get 1,100 of them approved by Congress. We could change the Constitution to postpone the swearing-in ceremony, but that would give the lame duck president more time and more license to ignore the will of the people. You think that wouldn't happen? It already does.
What we need to do,
For, I know, we could adopt a European-style parliamentary system. I hear that a lot. Nah. Then the president or prime minister would be elected by Parliament rather than by the people. And he would be beholden not to the people, but to the party in power.
I don't want that that to happen, that the Prime Minister will please withdraw the word idiot. It's unparliamentary. A simple withdrawal will suffice. We're grateful.
When you consider all the alternatives, the genius of the system that our founding fathers fashioned for us is self-evident. America's experiment in freedom is a shining city on a hill. Let's keep it, and by the grace of our Heavenly Father, let's work together to make America great again. This is Jerry Mills. Good day.